extend our heartfelt gratitude to them for graciously accepting our invitation to contribute their insights to these meaningful discussions. So once again, let's have a huge round of applause for all of you present here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited and happy to tell you all that all the sessions here today are being aired live on the Spirits TV for the benefit of thousands of viewers in India and abroad. So if you want to mention it to any of your family and friends, they can just watch you live on the Spirits TV today. And everyone, now as you all know that before starting anything good, we take the name of our Lord and we conduct an auspicious ceremony of lamp lighting. And now is the time to do that. For that, I would like to invite the Ambassador of Peru, Excellency Javier Polinik, to the stage to light the lamp. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a huge round of applause for him. All right, and now to accompany him, I would also like to invite Mr. Satpal Chaudhary, Mr. Shobhan Roy, Ms. Suman Gehlawat, Mr. Bishan Kumar, and Mrs. Shalini Kumar to accompany them. Once again, let's have a huge round of applause for the wonderful start which we are going to have, everyone. Right, as we light the auspicious ceremonial lamp, we seek the blessings of our Lord to everyone present here today. Thank you so much, everyone, for lighting the ceremonial lamp. Once again, let's have a huge round of applause for the wonderful start, everyone. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so before getting started with the first session, can we play the AV, please?
From the farms of Punjab to your glass, Origin starts its journey. On board, fresh Kinao fruit, harvested by local hands. Carefully processed with precision, Origin captures the zest of Kinao. Bottled with care and pride. Marketed locally, celebrated globally to share the flavor with the world. Each sip of Origin carries the vibrant essence of the land, smooth, zesty, and unmistakably original. For a gin like no other, there's only one name, Origin. Origin, taste the original.
Doing a blind taste test, regular or like blending water.
In terms of flavor and strongness, this is better.
That is better.
What is Mirka?
It has been recognized by the Scottish Awards.
Wow. I'm not surprised.
He tastes much better, the strong flavor, and also he feels very delicious.
Hey Chris, you wanna test the water?
Nah, man. Why dip your toe when you can dive right in? Why take small steps when you know all the steps?
Why let things simmer when you can cook up a storm?
Whoa! Ha! You are on fire, chef!
So go, do something for the first time.
Or the 18th time.
Go somewhere you've never gone before.
Hello, everyone.
Why live life in half measures when you can live it to the brim?
All right, now that was a very beautiful and an informative visual. Can we have a huge round of applause for that, ladies and gentlemen? All right, and now it's time to kick off the intellectual segment of the day at the Spirits Conclave and Achievers Awards, presented by Allied Blenders and Distillers Limited, powered by Pernod Ricard India, and supported by our associate partner, Asprey Spirits Private Limited. With this, we are going to get started with our first session, everyone. And the topic would be Decoding India's Affluent Consumer Class. Subtopics: Women are driving luxury, consumption pattern, pride in Indian. And for the first session, first I would like to call the moderator of this session on the stage. So let's have a huge round of applause for Miss Achal Kaushal, everyone. Okay, so she's not content with investing her entire career in just one sector and one job. So she moves from the telecommunications industry to the alcoholic beverages sector, where she finally found the buzz and thrill that she had been looking for. And now the Vice President, Customer Marketing, Diageo India, she has been actively involved in new launches, innovative strategies, and the opportunity to interact with the consumers as a high point of the profession that she has the passion for. And now to accompany her, I would like to call other panelists on the stage. Next up we have Ms. Pratna Pal Chaudhary. Let's have a round of applause for her, everyone. She's the head of regulatory affairs at Moe Hennessy India, carries over 2 decades of experience in public affairs, sales, marketing and business development. Previously, she was with Pernod Ricard India. She holds certifications as a whiskey ambassador and is a Cochrane Fellow from the US Department of Agriculture and Wine, Spirits and Beer. So next up we have Ms. Rohini Menzies. Let's have a round of applause, everyone. Okay, so she's a marketer, storyteller, and advocate of luxury brands. With nearly a decade of experience shaping renowned global houses, currently with Suntory Global Spirits India, she drives growth for the House of Suntory portfolio, blending Japanese craftsmanship with strategic excellence. She began her career at Coca-Cola, mastering consumer engagement, and later showcased her expertise with luxury icons like Moe Hennessy and William Grant & Sons.
Quite all.
Okay, next up we have Mr. Amulya Pandit. Let's have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, a senior consultant at Aero Monitor International, he brings nearly a decade of experience in market research and consulting. His expertise lies in offering valuable insights into India and fast-moving consumer goods industries. He actively participates in quantitative and qualitative market research endeavors, taking on the responsibility of authority numerous comprehensive national reports. His expert opinion on the FMCG industries have been frequently showcased in trade press articles. And now last but not the least, we have Mr. Arjun Batra. So let's have a round of applause for him. All right, he has been recognized as one of India's top 40 marketing leaders under 40 Business World in 2024, is a seasoned marketing and sales expert in the Alcobev industry. He was head of marketing at Globus Spirits Limited, overseeing brand strategy and innovation, and previously led brand marketing for premium labels at Beam Suntory India. So with this, we complete our panel. Once again, let's have a huge round of applause for the entire panel, everyone. Over to you, people. Thank you.
You all can hear me? Am I? Okay. Okay. First of all, I cannot help but notice that it's a very intimate audience. So thanks to you all, really humbled by having people who are here to listen to us. Quite an interesting topic. So we all caught up amongst ourselves, and first of all, we wanted to know that what is each one doing, and how can we really talk about this. So I'm quite looking forward to the kind of discussions which really germinate from this, and I'm hoping that you all enjoy as well. So we're talking today about decoding India's affluent consumer class, and if you go back and you look at some of the data points like from Bain and Company, we know that luxury industry has been growing within Alcobev, and it's anticipated that till 2030 we will continue to grow anything between say 16 to 18%, which is pretty impressive looking at where we are. We keep seeing lopsided growth sometimes in some of the categories within luxury, whether it's travel, sometimes even cars and everything. But this it's very encouraging for the Alcobev sector. So I'm going to ask some of the panelists about this, that say post-COVID, how have you seen the industry swell? So Rohini, we'll start with you. So what I'm saying is, within your own scope of brands which are there, how have you felt that the evolution of this industry really has been?
Yeah. So Anchal, just to your point where you spoke about the luxury industry growing, I think especially over the pandemic, and we were just having a little chat about this earlier today on how this was one industry that was insulated from everything that happened during the pandemic, and one industry that saw premiumization, not only into premium and super premium spirits, but also luxury segments where there are a lot of products on allocation, but those seem to be more in demand, the exclusivity, the pricing, etc. And just looking at the Indian consumer, we see that there is exponential growth, the amount of disposable income, the discretionary spending, and the rise in demand for luxury products today, whether it is within alcohol or outside. You will see that consumers are now driving these consumption trends, whether it is in our industry or outside. But more importantly for our industry, today, just looking back at my experience, I've been in this industry for 10 years now. I've worked across 3 organizations, all across the luxury segment. And I can very confidently say that I have seen this growth coming, especially in the upper segment of the industry, prestige brands, luxury whiskies. This is where the true growth of the industry will happen in the years to come.
So thanks so much, Rohini. And I'm going to shift a bit of these gears because we have a man from Euromonitor. So Amulya, if you have something to share with the audience, it will be great to see some data or any such trends, etc.
Hello everyone. I have a very small presentation. As I come from a market research background, it's only fair that I share some numbers.
You all are able to see, or you want us to?
Is it visible? It is, right? Okay. So in 2023, the alcoholic drinks market in India reached 6.7 billion liters. It was a 7.5% growth. The growth was relatively slower compared to last 2 years. In 2022, we also reached the pre-COVID levels. The reason for slow growth were high taxes, cost of living pressure, as well as the recovery of on-trade. So when people start drinking on on-trade, they drink comparatively less alcohol. If you look at chart on the left-hand side, you'll notice that India is a spirits drinking market. Now this trend is at odds with most geographies. For example, in APAC, 80% of the volume comes from beer, and spirits contribute to only 12%. However, India is a spirits drinking market where two-thirds of the overall sales come from whiskies. On the right-hand side, I have the growth for individual categories. It was comparatively slower year for brown spirits. However, white spirits witnessed significant growth. So there were some demographic and macroeconomic factors that aided the growth. As you all know, India is a young demographic with a median age of 29.1 years. We have close to 700 millennials and Gen Z. This translates to a significant number of people entering the legal drinking age every year. India also grew at a rapid rate. We were far more resilient than other geographies. So if you look at the chart below, you will see that real GDP growth is outpacing the inflation. And lastly, the disposable income is expected to grow at more than 30% over the forecast period, that is 23 to 28. And that has also translated into significant consumer expenditure across a significant host of categories. Now I think now is the good time to quantify and define what affluent class means. So the definition is as follows. India's working age population with an annual income of over USD 10,000. If you look at the chart on the right-hand side, you'll see that most of our population falls under the 0 to 5,000 bracket, naturally as we are a developing country. Below, you can clearly see that the burgeoning middle class is expected to grow at more than 100% over the period 23 to 28. And lastly, we come on to the affluent class. At present, the class consists of 39 million people, and it is expected to grow at 19 million by 2028. This number relatively is small, but if you look at in isolation, it's more than the population of Germany, UK, and South Korea. So then we look at some of the trends based on our survey data. This is to reiterate 2 of our sub-themes, the consumption pattern and pride in India brands. Look at the chart on the left-hand side. we surveyed nearly 28,000 people across the globe. Out of that, 554 were from India, and they were for the income band more than USD 10,000. They were given 5 options for these questions: agree, strongly agree, neither agree or disagree, strongly disagree. So these responses are a culmination of agree and strongly agree. If you look at some of the questions, I like to buy new products and services. Indian consumers outpace the global counterparts. We have seen takers for a lot of categories like gin, premium vodka, and even tequila. Then there are questions like they prefer branded goods to non-branded alternatives. Again, as I've mentioned, disposable income has increased significantly and people are looking to upgrade. Then I like to be distinct from others. Again, we outpace our global counterparts. In the age of social media, there is more need to express one's individuality now more than ever. And lastly, I enjoy spending my money rather than saving it. Again, we are far ahead of our global counterparts, which reiterates that consumers are spending their discretionary income on a lot of luxury products. On the right-hand side, I wanted to reiterate the pride in India products. So I try to purchase locally sourced products and services. Again, in isolation, the number is small, but relatively, Indian consumers outpace that, and that is why we have seen the growth in categories like gin and single malts, which were produced and distilled in India. So we have talked about millennials, a consumer segment that has the highest disposable income, is well-traveled and looking to upgrade. Therefore, I have sales by volume for various whiskies of different origins. As you all know, Scotch obviously leads the market. One-fourth out of all the Scotch which is imported is sold in bottled form, something that I have captured. However, whiskies from other countries are also gaining traction. So you have Irish whiskey, US whiskey, Japanese whiskey, which has found takers in the last 2 years. And we believe that during the forecast period, they will achieve significant sales. On the right-hand side, I have single malt volume by type. I think one thing which will catch your fancy is that Indian single malts in 2023 are now outpacing other single malts, which clearly reiterates that there is a demand for high quality Indian single malt product, as well as the rise in affluent consumers combines very well with these specific trends. That is it from my side. Thank you.
Thanks, Amulya. Before I go on to the consumer, I just wanted to take a moment to ask you, Pratna, how has regulatory framework really made a difference in accelerating this growth that we're talking about?
Good morning, everybody. So before I come to your question, when we were talking of COVID and post-COVID, I would want to remember and thank the situation around wherein we as alcohol, we could think about home delivery of alcohol just because COVID happened, right? So that helped us to an extent. We at the regulatory front could have, done whatever, but this wouldn't have been possible. This helped us, and now we are talking to each and every state so that they can replicate what West Bengal did by Swiggy and Zomato delivery. So that is something which started off post-COVID. So that has helped us a lot, the industry. And now coming to how regulatory has helped the affluent class. So when we talk about regulatory, it is not about a company that I represent. It is about the community of the entire regulatory folks, some of them who are actually sitting there with us, who has been seniors to us. Before me, there will be people after me who will be working on the same regulatory front, working together, be it combined as ISWAI or CIBC. We are all together and we work for the same cause. And we don't work for a company is what I would like to say. Right, Rajneesh? Right, Sanjeev? We all have the same issues and we try to solve it for all of us. So here what we did, people before me, and while I also was a part of it, we worked very closely on the Maharashtra front and we got the taxes lowered on the international brand, making it accessible, more accessible for the affluent class. We decoded it that way and then West Bengal followed. It was followed by Orissa in 2022. Maharashtra was 2021. And then it was Karnataka, few months back, 2024. And for all of us, it was a very big win, right?
Yeah, I'm sure now that Karnataka prices are coming down, it will make a difference to the Haryana sales.
100% it would.
Okay, thanks so much, Pratna. And yeah, I think still a long way to go on home delivery. Okay, so let's move on to the consumer now. I mean, really taking a big leap from where we are. I think there is something about the consumer, luxury and status has always been akin, I mean, it's sometimes we also call it statusful luxury or whatever. Many aspects are attached to luxury, opulence, something about extravagant kind of style of being. I mean, we can't stop talking about the Ambani wedding and how, ostentatious it really was, how excessive it was. But then there's another part, there's another set of consumers who are really looking at authenticity, something which is more, it's about individualism, maybe a wee bit of simplicity also. So let's talk about this newer shift within the consumer set and their reflection of what luxury really is. So Arjun, you'd like to just share something there?
Yeah, thanks for that, Anchal, and good morning, everyone. I think the consumer today, there used to be this perception historically that luxury and premium brands are only being consumed by people of a certain age and above, right? I think that age bracket has reduced, first of all. I also think that consumers today are looking at associating with experiences through products and brands particularly. I think what's fascinating is the whole approach towards authentic storytelling. I've had some interesting conversations over the course of the last year on what the storytelling experience really is about and how consumers really connect with brands. And I think gone are the days when, just a simple gimmicky approach towards getting a brand out there is going to connect towards building a brand from a long-term time frame. I think today they're looking at connecting with brands meaningfully. So what is the consumer looking at? They're looking at authenticity, they're looking at that connect. But more than anything else, they're looking at experiential engagement. And brands that are able to connect with consumers across age brackets, right? Not just people in their 40s and 50s and 60s, but also people in their 30s, right? People in their late 20s are able to get through. We've seen the emergence of festivals in India, not the religious kind, but spirits festivals that are celebrating high quality brands. A lot of that also comes from the focus on how these brands are created, right? The focus on attention to detail. Even if something is mass produced, what is the whole production methodology? What are the quality controls? And then you get into that entire essence of craft. I think these are things that consumers want to understand today. And they are able to relate to a lot more because everything is available at the touch of a button on the phone today. People are exposed to media. They want to know about what they're consuming. So I think that plays a huge role.
Great. I'm going to take a leaf out of what you just said, which is the younger consumer, which you said late 20s till, 32 and all. I won't even go to a 35. But or let's simplify. Let's talk about the millennial kind of a consumer. I'm just, talking to you about some of the things that we talk about in terms of trends at Diageo, which is really impacting the consumer. A very rooted kind of a luxury, culturally immersed, etc. Living in the now, which is about, really self-indulgence that we're talking about. A more conscious luxury. What do I really, look at? Is sustainability. I know it's a really big word and sometimes slightly more overrated, but are those things really making a difference to this consumer? So irrespective of all of these trends, and we can keep on going on and on about all of these things, but if I look at the kind of work which has been done across brands, do we feel that we've started imbibing it that, in our ways of either developing our innovations, our products, or even in the way we market ourselves. Are we truly millennial out in that sense? So maybe Rohini, you could do a bash at it.
Thank you, Anchal. In the industry that we work in, and especially in India, right, I feel like we as organizations, we do have, this is a dark market, so it's also very difficult for us to interact with our audience where they are today. Arjun was just talking about how, the consumer is better traveled, more digitally connected. And that is what luxury brands are offering today. They are more available on e-commerce. That become a big pillar for growth. But what does that mean? That means that they're also digitally connecting to share more knowledge about the brands, to share more history, to become relevant for consumers, and to create brands that will be relevant for consumers over 4 different generations, because that's who luxury brands are talking today. 4 different generations, right from Gen Z upwards. So we in the alcohol industry, I think that we've started to put our foot forward in this direction to connect more with the consumer. There is, just supporting and advocating for, Pratna's work, and of course the work of the regulatory community in India. How does that open up to allow us to speak to consumers more? I think what a lot of whiskey brands, especially for our industry, have done very well is, local collaborations, for example. How have we been able to partner with local homegrown brands? We were just talking, Amulya was just talking a little bit about how there are Indian brands today that are also competing within a premium segment or a luxury segment. We have some great examples of Indian brands that are doing that. I think that organizations like ourselves have made so much headway in, creating local collaborations, local innovations, and tapping into more communities across the affluent segment where we've been allowed to bring our brand storytelling to consumers, especially in the segment where they are now starting to invest more on luxury brands and starting to get more connected with luxury brands like ourselves.
On that note, what you spoke about, the Indian and the homegrown brands, I sometimes feel that maybe our colonial hat is sort of over. There used to be a times when single malt meant, a good scotch. And slowly when the Indians single malt started coming, initially there was a little bit of a distance from it, that how can I have a malt which is made in India? And look at it today. We have various expressions of malts which are coming up. Diageo in itself has Godawan there, and then Paul John has been there, Amrut, etc. And even Radico has got its malt. And I'm telling you that when I go out for parties, people are actually very proud to put a new Indian single malt on the table. So refreshing. We've not seen that all this while. So, I go back to the whole rooted in culture kind of a space. I think there's a lot of India pride as well, which we are kind of seeing. So, I know you spoke about the duties coming down and all, but something about how culturally, things are changing, and how do you all discuss it in your regulatory world? So, what do you think about that?
See, Indian single malt makes us proud. Currently, the company that I work for, we are again into sparkling wines, which we are producing here in India. So we are proud of it, and we are proud to showcase it out to the world. Of course, I'm very proud to even talk about Godawan when it puts across to the global forum. I've seen L77 being made and marketed. I was a part of that team when I was with Pernod Ricard. That makes us proud. And yes, with the taxes coming down for international brands, yes, it would be a little difficult to in the price war. But however, I think
But good for the consumer.
Yeah.
They have an array of choices.
Again, coming from the luxury background, I would say luxury is all about preference and not about pricing. And this has got nothing to do with regulatory. So if I like a Godawan or an L77 or an Amrut, I will go for it. Right? It's not about, it's about what you prefer. You prefer a Omega or a Patek Philippe. It is about your preference and not about the pricing of it.
That's a very interesting point, Pratna, because we know that repertoires are changing. I mean, a little bit of a data that we look at, I mean, if you remember at that time, people would say, oh, I'm a Chivas drinker or I'm a Black Label drinker. Those conversations are passé. In fact, in some of our own interaction studies which we do, we say that on an average, a consumer is interacting with anything between 11 to 18 brands. That's a humongous amount of choice. It makes the companies very vulnerable, but also it evokes that whole sentiment of we need to innovate, you know, according to the changing times, etc. And you had presented, Amulya, the data right now where Indian single malts have a share almost equal to, you know, the Scotch whiskies. So any more insights or anything which you'd like to talk about in terms of the whole craft within India space?
So I think there were a lot of perception biases in the past. A lot of credit has to go to Amrut for breaking those biases. It gained a lot of equity in the international markets, and then we Indian consumers realized that Indian companies have come up with quality products and they gained more acceptance. So single malt, I've already mentioned that, you know, Indian single malts are outpacing other single malts. Similarly, gin is another category where Indian brands are doing really well. One thing that we are doing well is leveraging our strengths. So if you look at gin, we are using botanicals. Historically, we have used that in our food, which is very coveted across the globe. I think we have brought those strengths to alcoholic drinks as well. Also, the stakeholders are now aware how important that industry is. In value terms, it's close to US 50 billion. So it's significant. It is impacting the entire economy, and companies are now leveraging their strengths to promote their Indian brands. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Another thing I think, Rohini, you mentioned, which was, you know, this whole change in digital and hence how is it accelerating stuff. I think one of the things which germinates out of it, which I find personally very exciting and interesting, is the emergence of boom towns. I mean, there was a time when we would make our marketing plans, or like even a big store would open first in a class A town or metro, you know, I mean, that's how it really used to be. Today, if you look at it, the consumer, especially the younger consumer, is more same than different between towns. You know, whatever we call as a boom town, which is like the next level of growth, the smaller towns as we used to call them, or the tier 2, the youth over there is extremely similar to what we find in the bigger towns. And I think digitization has made it like that. Social media has made it like that. So, I mean, when you're looking at your products, campaigns and all, how are you looking at, say, these two consumers who are across the two towns? So, Arjun, you want to talk to us about that?
You know, it's fascinating. When we look at any consumer approach and we look at any marketing strategy, traditionally in our industry, a lot of the conversations have been around off-trade, on-trade, how do we connect with the consumer in the market. So here's the thing, the digital medium is a very real channel of engagement today. And I think understanding what the consumer is speaking about digitally is equally important towards building that strategy. When you look at channels of engagement, the time that we had during COVID was devastating for the hospitality industry, right? But how were you to connect with the consumer at that point of time? I think one of the things that really helped while engaging, not while advertising, but while engaging, was to ensure that the consumer was able to connect with brands integrated into their lifestyle. And I think that is where channels of engagement today are equally important when you're looking at connecting with the consumer. And hence, you know, anyone, a millennial for that matter, or anyone of any age group sitting in a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 city or town for that matter, can connect with brand experiences, not just in any city across India, but also globally, right? Which is why they are able to ask a lot of questions. There's a lot of curiosity, and there's a lot of intrigue. And there's a lot of aspirational value in wanting to connect with certain experiences, right? I think one thing that we spoke about was also, you know, while speaking about the growing pride in Indian brands, was that while a lot of consumers observed a lot of international brands, they were also hungry for that platform where people are going to celebrate the artistry of India in the alcobev sector, right? I mean, you want to speak about brands that are also coming out from India. And I think today, with the emergence of so many brands, they're very much doing that, right? I see people coming in from international countries, taking back brands, for their international friends and colleagues, and proudly saying that, I brought this from India.
Yeah, that's such a big thing, no?
Yeah, it's huge,
Yeah,
right? So I think that is fascinating, and it's really about understanding also for a lot of international consumers about what's going on in India. They do that digitally. So that's why I think it's a fascinating space.
Nice. Your set of brands under House of Suntory, when you all look at your marketing approach, etc., how do you look at the geography planning? Like, just at a very overarching level, not going into brands, but how do you look at a city or a state kind of a plan in light of the boomtown discussion that we're having?
Yeah. So I think when you can't be everywhere all the time. I think as brands we try to also prioritize, because especially with Japanese whiskeys that have had this legacy of 100 years now. Most of them are allocated products, still very much sought after, very much in demand. And how I as a marketer, how my team looks at is, we still look at the key cities in India, the cities of influence. We still look at the top 6 cities where, with growing urbanization, with the growing middle class, a lot of people are now moving into the city. But yes, there is this whole population that is sitting in smaller markets. Like when we talk about growing affluence in India, there are markets like Surat popping up on the list. There are markets like,
really?
Yeah, so there are billionaires coming from these markets today. And how we reach out to them, we then look at, while these cities would just influence them, yes, because they would travel to these cities for business, for interactions, to come into the city for opportunities where they get exposure to brands like these. We also look at how do we take these intimate experiences to them, because we still feel that also for this consumer, one thing that we understood is the kind of consumer that is consuming within luxury. Some of them may not even be on digital. The ones that can afford, yes, the younger audience would be, but a large set of this segment that has the affordable, has the money or the disposable income to buy a whiskey, for example, that is 1 lakh and above. Most of them are not even on digital. That's when we use a strategy of taking these experiences to them, creating intimate experiences which are on-ground engagements, and using those as opportunities to talk about brands, etc. So I think the variation, the difference in the targeted consumer today, and also the affluence that is cropping up in different parts of the country, it challenges us at marketers to think about this very agile approach in our marketing strategies, and how do we take our brands to consumers wherever they are, and creating relevance for them and seeking opportunities where we believe that they would consume our products.
I quite like that, because I think prioritization, which you said, really, really matters, and that's really at the heart of bulk of the things which we are doing within the realms of the two towns, etc. But very interesting aspect which you pointed out. Incidentally, I'm also from a boomtown, and when people started saying that, I used to feel very offended. Okay. The next one, which was on the within the realms of what we are discussing, was women driving luxury, which is not the three of us, but women as consumers, and how are they really taking to luxury. I'm going to read 2-3 data points which I had taken up. So. Women world over are earning and spending more than, of course, the men. Women earn approximately 13 trillion US dollars around the world. And in 5 years, this will only swell to $18 trillion. And in 2028, women will control about 3/4 of the world's discretionary spending. That's quite a huge number we are talking about. I'm not trying to create really a gender divide, but more of an, equalizer somewhere, because I'm curious that with this kind of disposable income changing, consumer habits, because, within Diageo also I'm seeing a higher indexation on certain categories, whether it's gins, whether it's tequilas, etc. So are we really, as marketers, putting forth our products so that either it matters to women or it's truly gender equal. So, I mean, that's something which I have really thought about, because if you look at some of the research agnostic of the industry, women say that they don't feel that the advertisers or marketers are really looking at them while designing a lot of their products, campaigns, or services. So that was my next topic of discussion. And Prasna, anything from your side?
So, women, we three of us here, of course, we are driving luxury, and and I'm proud to do so. So basically, I have been lucky to learn luxury from people who I've worked under. When I was working for Remy Cointreau, then Valerie, who hailed from LVMH, was the global CEO. Antoinette, who is now currently with Diageo, and also Valerie is also sitting at the board of Diageo. These were the people from whom we learned luxury from. And now I'm in a company where it is led by 6 women. The managing director is also a lady. So yes, we drive luxury for sure, and we also consume a lot of luxury, which the figures that you were talking about proves that. And I think we should keep doing that. We should keep doing that.
Okay.
We should lead from front.
Thanks. And, Rohini, I'll swing back to where I started from. That, do you think as marketers we are doing enough, or as organizations where we are also taking this cohort of people for whom we, say, design products or campaigns like I mentioned before? Or within your own scope of work, do you feel that you are looking at them as another cohort?
So Anshul, just thinking back to your point where you said that, luxury is today driven by women. Just thinking about that, I believe that there are certain steps that brands and organizations are taking. If I look at it from an organization perspective, you will see that as a part of diversity and inclusion, DE&I, more women are being considered in leadership roles. More women are being considered in roles that actually influence, areas that kind of target this consumer audience as well. And that's because women have a higher emotional intelligence, is what I believe. I think women have an emotional attachment to everything that they do, and in the way that they think. And therefore, I believe that, yes, while representatives like ourselves in the industry as women do drive luxury, from the other angle, just looking at how brands are targeting women today, quite honestly, I think one thing that comes to mind from what you said, I as a woman do not want to be treated differently from men, right? When I think of that, I'm like, hey, I want to be spoken to the same way as males do, and maybe a lot of women also think that way. But yes, brands are doing a lot today to target women specifically. I feel that within our industry, there's a lot of headway we need to make in that particular direction where we're talking to women specifically. I think some categories, especially white spirits like gin, vodka, or even wines for that matter, today target women specifically as key consumers. But I think that has changed over the years. I think women are now consuming more whiskeys as well. And I've been to some, I have experienced some occasions of consumption or some opportunities or some events myself where I've seen women also do consume more than men when it comes to whiskey. So yes, there is a rising trend of consumption by women within our industry, but yes, we have a long way to go when we talk about, you'll never see the content that goes on digital, for example. It's always a man holding a glass of whiskey. It's always a man holding a bottle. Stereotypically, we always saw single malt as a man sitting in a leather chair smoking a cigar, and he has a single glass of single malt in his hand, So we talk about these stereotypes, and yes, we want to make progress in this direction, but I think we have a long way to go where we truly need to advertise for women, and we need to use women as advocates within this industry as well. I think outside of the industry, we've done that quite beautifully. We see names like Priyanka Chopra, Alia Bhatt representing big brands across the globe, right? Louis Vuitton, Deepika Padukone, Gucci, Alia Bhatt. I think in other industries, we've managed to do that a lot, and Indian women have been able to represent luxury brands very well. But I believe within the alcohol industry, we still have a long way to go with that.
Agree, yeah. And Arjun, what about you? I've seen some work which you had done on Terai, and we were talking about it also a little while back. But at an overall level, what do you think we are as marketers?
You know, it's an evolving space. I think if you looked at the way in which marketing plans were approached about 10 years ago, when you asked for a consumer definition, you had these very stereotypical definitions, right? SEC being defined, age being defined, gender being defined, predominantly male. And when you asked that why are we defining a particular gender, it was because, oh, research says this much percentage really comes in, you know? Well, the reality is that research is based on a sample size of consumers also being spoken to. And the reality also has been that, the product for the longest time has also been a taboo space for discussion in our country, which doesn't mean that women didn't enjoy the brand. It's just that a lot of people were very apprehensive about speaking about it, right? Today, if I walk into more affluent circles and I walk into, avenues where brands are being consumed, you see an equal number of women enjoying a single malt as you see gentlemen over there. Similarly, on the flip side, for the longest time, gin and vodka have been associated only with ladies consuming the brand, whereas I see a lot of gentlemen enjoying a great cocktail as well. So I think today the marketing approach towards a lot of things is about recognizing the consumer, the fact that you have people, people of all genders who are consuming your brands, and ensuring that you're sensitive. You're sensitive from a gender perspective, you're sensitive from a cultural perspective on how brands are being portrayed. I think the approach towards those stereotypical approaches that say that it only has to be presented in a certain way is passé. Having said that, I think that is something that is evolving at a faster pace in premium categories and above, and has some space for growth as you look at more mass and regular segments.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. What I'm taking back from the discussion that we are having is that, one, yes, there is space to grow, but at this stage, let's not get into exclusion. Let's make it more temperate, and let's not even create women's preferences as a separate space. It's more about trends which are more macro amongst all of them. So whether it's whites or cocktails or whatever, it doesn't belong to a gender. It's for a certain occasion into the consumer and all, so that kind of a thing. So yeah, I mean, completely concur with you. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, so you share data at a global level. I think if you look at specifically India, we still have work to do. So just purely from the data perspective, only 1 out of 3 women above the age of 15 are part of the workforce. In case of men, it's 4 by 5. In the past, we have had some innovative strategies. I remember a wine player coming up with a sommelier at home program, where you target women consumers by sending wine at their homes, accompanying it with cheese. Again, it was a very expensive program, so they had to discontinue. But we need to provide a safer environment as well for shopping, something that we have been doing, partnering with the stakeholders. So the new age stores like Mansion provide a very safe environment for women to browse, but we still have a lot of work to do in that aspect as well.
All right, great. Yeah, please.
I'm a little away from marketing now, but as much you spoke about Priyanka Chopra, and Aanchal, isn't Priyanka Chopra on the face of the global campaign of
Blue Label,
Johnny Walker Blue?
Yeah, that's right.
And it was actually a proud moment seeing that happen.
That was India Pride or that was Woman Pride?
Both. Okay. And that also Johnny Walker as a brand, as a lady ambassador, I think, and at a global level.
Yeah, I think again, I'll swing back to what was being discussed. Let's be agnostic of the gender. She exudes luxury in every way, and that's what's important. Yeah. Okay, but no, great point. I'll tell the Johnny Walker team. Okay, I think some great points discussed. At an overall level, one of my last reflection on this would be, let's not make luxury very stiff. I think luxury from what it was 10 years back is really not what we talk about. It's not like you need to, I think one of you said, sit in a library bar on a leather couch and really open your single malt. I think luxury is more simplistic now, more attainable and authentic, and that's the space which is very relatable for a lot of consumers, and hence as brands we need to gear ourselves. And of course there would be layers of luxury because you have the ultra, etc. also. Some last points from you all before we wrap up our session. Ratna.
See, I'm proud to be a woman leader. I'm proud to be embodying luxury, though I've moved into the regulatory bit, but still, I think I'm I'm at the forefront of working and promoting luxury. That is what I would say I would keep on doing.
Great, thanks. Rohini, you?
I believe that luxury will grow in the future exponentially. You quoted some of those numbers. I think that India overall and also our industry is making a lot of headway in this direction. And I'm sure that we will continue to do so. And just resonating with what Pratna said, as a woman within this industry, leading luxury, but also as a consumer of luxury brands. I look forward to India being one of those countries that truly looks at luxury the way that other countries do. I still think that in a lot of ways, we're very heavy on tax. We don't have access to luxury brands everywhere. A lot of the opportunities, I'm sure that this will happen over time. And I really look forward to this happening, and your numbers that you quoted to 2028, 2030.
Yeah, we'll be a part of that two-third discretionary spending.
For sure.
Yeah, got it.
But it is a state of mind, and it will continue to remain so. And as we see this growing potential within spending, or whether it's the growing middle class, I'm sure that this would be something that we'll continue to speak about as a country. We're now one of the leading countries when it comes to luxury. But yes, India will be the future for luxury and luxury brands.
Yeah, while we are wrapping up, but that whole pyramid approach in any case has all changed. We know that it's like a diamond kind of an economy. So this is where the luxury in the middle is starting from, which is not really the middle India of the erstwhile that we were talking about. So I think that space is very interesting now. Yeah, and that's what is causing the growth. Amulya, man of data.
So as I mentioned during my presentation, the affluent class is expected to be around 90 million, which is a significant consumer base. If you look at from the company's perspective, they will push luxury products solely based on two facts. Whether it's the theme of drinking less but better quality of alcohol, it works well for that. Also at a time of high inflation, where companies are focusing on premium products, all these themes fit in perfectly.
Thanks.
Look, I consider myself as a student of the space, right? For me, it's fascinating how the definition of luxury is evolving. Up to a few decades ago, it was very bling. Today, the concept of minimalistic luxury has come in, right? How it continues to evolve is going to be a fascinating space. I think understanding consumer preferences is going to be at the heart of how the space also evolves, because it's going to be about relatability, it's going to be about relevance, but it's also, that whole aspect of stature won't really move away from it. I think what is fascinating is, I'll pick up a little bit of data and maybe take a leaf of your book, but I read a data point that said that middle-income households, but at the same time growing income households between 5 lakhs and 30 lakhs is actually increasing to 730 million people plus by 2031 from being 430 million plus in 2021. So I think that represents a significant part of the opportunity that will come up in this space. as people continue to aspire to experience new things. So I think I'm fascinated by this space, and I see it as a huge potential for growth for consumers, for the economy for sure. And I see India contributing to the world significantly in this space in the times to come.
Absolutely, completely agree, inshallah. And on that note, thanks a ton, everybody, and thanks to the panel. It was a very interesting discussion. We couldn't see you guys from here, so we don't know if you enjoyed or not.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah. Any questions? No. Fairly simplistic as a topic.
Hi, you said you couldn't see us, so I'll stand up. Right, so I can't help myself but recognize the awesome pride that all of you feel in your brands and companies that you represent here and the work you do. So congratulations for that. My question really is, I heard a lot about how Indian single malts, gins from India, made in India for the world, is taking off. However, I can't help wonder, is this really Indian pride at play here? Because isn't it more international products that are being made in India now, just with little local flavor? I didn't hear anything about any of our indigenous spirits, any work being done on that. And even your second part of your discussion where there was talk of luxury, I think there is an opportunity. I wonder whether there is work happening in your respective companies in this area where there are products that are possible, that have existed in Indian culture for centuries, and just that they haven't had their moment in the sun. And I wonder, with all this talk of India pride, what's your view on those bits? Thank you.
I'll take that question and then I'll pass it on to you all if you want to. See, I have another way of looking at the whole India pride space. One is obviously that intrinsically there is a sense of a comfort pride which has set in. So for instance, since you said, your own organizations and all, I can talk about Godawan, the fact that we really talk about the fact that it's from Rajasthan, it's made in a certain way, it's artisanal and all of that. Now you can, any of us can turn around and say, hey, you know what, it doesn't matter to the consumer, he's just buying it because it's something different. Okay, even if that is true, he or she still knows it's an Indian single malt, and that as a marketer is a great, space to be in, because that means, first of all, you don't have that baggage that I need a scotch, I need a drink which is made in Scotland. You're very comfortable with the idea of picking up that Indian single malt and putting it on the table. Your other question, which is about there is a lot of space in other things. I think we are not even at the cusp of change. It's very initial days. There is a lot of euphoria and all, but not a euphoria where we have attained success. Even if you look at the numbers of all of these brands, maybe all of them put together comes to a certain number, but I think we're still, in that change management process. But what's interesting is the nature of innovation which is happening in this space. I was browsing through Instagram the other day, and there was a luxury Mahura spirit which has come into being. It's absolutely outstanding that we are so okay with so many things, and in fact beyond okay. Like, we want to try newer expressions and all. So for me, it's a work in progress. And that's really the pride. But the storytelling within this pride becomes very powerful. I think something which Rohini also mentioned, when you start telling that story is what makes the person who's the consumer feel more elevated, that yes, I want this product for consumption or even to showcase. So I don't know if you all want to add something.
So a lot of work is happening on that front as well. I'm aware of a distillery called South Seas, from where when I was working with Pernod Ricard, we had the Longitude 77 we had taken from them, and there is a brand called Crazy Cock, which they have just about launched. The same company has come up with the Mahua. So a lot of work is going behind that, and if you look at the bottle, it's beautiful, and anybody would love to pick it up from a global travel retail store. And I'm sure a lot of work is also happening on Feni, Kazulo, the vases of Goa. They have done a lot of work on that. So things are happening. Yes, it's slow, but certainly it's happening.
Thank you for that.
I think just one thing I'll add. I think this is that phase of discovery, right? And for the first time, we are in a time period where a lot of consumers are discovering that there aren't just options that are coming from India, but options they can be very proud of. I think that discovery is going to go beyond the whiskies and gins into a lot of other categories, right? And I think this is that phase where that continuation of pride is going to lead to fantastic new products coming up and being made into fantastic new brands. So I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, and the growth story is something that has the potential to be unprecedented.
Okay.
Can I just, sorry, I'm just going to add one point to what everyone said. Just talking about how, while we speak about these Indian brands specifically, right, I think Indian organizations have done a great job. Amulya spoke about how Indian single malt today is overtaking Scotch. Yeah, it's grown exponentially to overtake Scotch. So hats off to marketing teams who've put Indian single malts on the map, right? I'm taking that as one example, but they talk about their awards. They have spoken about their whiskies on international stages where they've won accolades versus, so just comparing that innovation and that spirit coming from India to what Scotches have been doing for such a long time. We've been able to put ourselves at par with them. And even when the consumer has to make a choice, today they're not investing or buying Indian single malts because they're cheaper than Scotch. In some instances, Indian single malt is even more expensive than Scotch today. Just thinking about consumer mindset and how they want to invest, it's about how these brands are doing a brilliant job in allowing the consumer to hear what they want to, what they need to, that, we're good quality, we're comparable to global brands, we have this brilliant story to tell, and India has this offering to make great quality products that you would otherwise go abroad to buy, So just wanted to add that while all this is happening, the Indian consumer themselves is also thinking from this perspective. And
Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for the question.
That's fine.
Any other question? Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Sir.